Hiya. So I'm in Ireland, beautiful Ireland this week, and I spotted lots of red clover, which I'm sure you'll all be very familiar with. But I thought I'd do a video on it. It's quite abundant at this time of year, and it has some really quite amazing properties. When I researched it, I was really quite impressed with them. So let's start with the identification. Here's some beautiful flowers of the red clover. So the flowers of the red clover, they're actually made up of lots of little flowers. And they make a globe shape. I'm sure everybody is familiar with what clover leaves look like, but I'll just show you here. 3 lobed leaves, and they often have pale markings on them, so I'll just find those markings as an example. Here's some. Can you see on there those sort of light markings? They're not very pronounced. Some are really quite obvious. In fact, here's some examples. There we go, you see that? That's called red clover, or purple clover, which seems a bit odd to me because it looks pink. But there we are. Okay, so the flowers are used. Only the flowers. And also I apologise because this video is actually a bit late. This would have been really helpful if I'd have done this a lot sooner. But they're only to be used in late May to June, because they do actually become slightly toxic come July. So sorry about that, guys, but hey, you can pick them for next year. So ways to use them would be as tea. It's quite an easy one. So you would take the flowers and you'd lay them out on trays and sort of leave them somewhere warm, not in direct sunlight, and you would just leave them to dry out, just a single layer of them, because if they stack up on top of each other, they're going to be too wet and they'll start to mould or ferment. Don't want that. You can use them dried then as tea, or you could I'll explain later some external uses for them. So you can actually put them in water and then use them as a skin wash externally. You can tincture them, so which is basically just stuffing. You'd have to dry them first, again, because if they're moist, it adds moisture content to your tincture and then it can mould. So you should dry them out, and then you could add them to a bottle of vodka or brandy and make your own tincture. Another really nice way of doing it, this is good for children, is in honey. So again, dry them and then pack them into a jar of honey. Leave them for a good few weeks and then strain off. You could also, I suppose, if you wanted to use them externally, you could make, I suppose, salves or oils, which are quite simple to do. So the thing that impressed me the most about these is that they are a hormone balancer. And I found that quite amazing, because something that you sort of take for granted, don't you, is an excellent hormone balancer. So if you have too much estrogen, need to remember this. If you have too much estrogen, the clovers have in them something called phytoestrogen, and that binds to the estrogen receptors in your body. And the phytoestrogen in these is weaker than the estrogen produced by your body. So if you have an imbalance of estrogen where you have too much estrogen, then these bind to the receptors and they stop the production of the strong estrogen being produced inside your body. Symptoms of those, from what I could find, are things like brain fog, getting muddled with your words, cognition sort of problems, and also a lot of sort of memory and cognition problems due to brain fog. Not brain fog, due to anxiety. There we go, isn't that ironic? Talking about brain fog. I mentioned before in one of my videos the doctrine of signatures, which is sort of old plant law and herb law, that often the herbs will look like the part of the body that they help. And in this case, they look like a brain on a sort of stem, on the brain stem. So that's where that comes from. Another way that the clovers are good for the brain, they're a slight nervine. They're good for children because they're nice and gentle, and they're very good for children with anxiety or children who struggle to sleep because of sort of racing thoughts, a busy mind. So you could put that in honey and that would make a really nice tasting medicine, gentle medicine for children. So I thought that was quite lovely. You can use it in adults too, but quite popular in children. Just show you some more. I mean, they go on forever and they smell amazing too. They really do smell amazing. Gone off on a bit of a tangent because I mentioned that they were hormone balancing. What I didn't mention is that if you have too little estrogen, obviously they contain estrogen and they increase your estrogen levels, and that is particularly prevalent in the menopause. So hot flushes, vaginal dryness, they're particularly good. They're cool and they're moist, so they're excellent for menopause. They're very good to drink at the start of a hot flush. You might want to drink the tea cold, because if you're having a hot flush, I don't think hot tea would be very pleasant. So they're particularly good for the menopause. Very useful, very beautiful. They also have an affinity with the lymph. They're called an alterative, and when we refer to a herb as an alterative, we're talking blood cleansing, essentially. Your lymphatic system, flushing through the lymphatic system and the immune system. They're particularly good if you have got swollen glands, so due to a cold or the flu or COVID, swollen glands from those, they're really helpful, and sore throats. So they'll help to flush those toxins out of your body. They are also slightly diuretic, which is helpful for that too. So again, similar to the cleavers, I've done a video on cleavers, same sort of thing with the alterative properties. So being alterative, plants that have an affinity with the lymphatic system also have an affinity for skin, because the lymphatic system flushes out all the toxins from your body. If you suffer with acne, they're fantastic. So that's another use for these. Again, you could have them in tea, you could have them tinctured. Also excellent, they're moist and they're cooling, and they have the affinity with the skin, therefore they're fantastic for eczema and psoriasis. Fantastic for that. And you can use them not only internally for those conditions, but you can also use them externally as like a wash. So you can put the flowers in the water. You wouldn't need to dry them in that instance if you're using them straight away, and then you could use it as a wash over your skin. So who knew that this little plant, they do lots of other things too. I mean, I've only listed sort of the key ones. Another that I can think of off the top of my head is for constipation, which again I think would be quite nice in children because it's gentle. Because they're moist, then they will help to loosen up the digestive tract. You find them everywhere, don't you, as well? That's the thing about them. I know often people are trying to get them out of the lawn, aren't they? But I think that we should be keeping these, and the bees absolutely love them. So yes, if you can, something to plant in your garden. I've just found a beautiful example. Look at that one. They are gorgeous. So I hope that you enjoyed my video, and I'll see you for the next one.